I just got out of the shower and I've put this thing on, which is like a marshmallow cuddling you, and I guess that marshmallow is sponsored by Marvel in some way, but it's so good. So you're going to see plenty of this thing, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about in this video because I want to talk about The Last of Us instead. So get rid of your marshmallows, throw those away because we're going to be talking about zombie survival and The Last of Us, which I don't think I've mentioned on this channel. It's one of my favorite games ever made. Actually, the first Last of Us game is one of my favorite games ever made. I absolutely adore it. Not just on a story and sort of visual presentation level. I just like the gameplay. I think is tremendous. I think the pacing is phenomenal. I think despite the fact that it feels very familiar, it also felt very unique. And yes, I do genuinely. I think the gameplay was absolutely fantastic. I know a lot of people think it was very basic, but for me, someone who's not into too complexer games, that's not a word by the way. I really enjoyed it. I remember one time I was just going to play it through, one more time, play it through again. So I played a few missions, and then later on in that day, I started playing again. I thought I'd do a couple more. Started about 9 o'clock, and then by about 4:30, I was running through the hospital again. I just had to finish it. I think The Last of Us is so good. That first game is absolutely so great. So obviously, I was very excited for this TV show. A little bit apprehensive. I mean, how couldn't you be? I'm also a huge Halo fan. Yeah, so things have sort of been a bit mixed. Although, actually, I might get into the Halo show later on in this video. But, there's a lot going on with adaptations right now. So, obviously, the initial response to any video game adaptation at the moment is apprehension. Although, I have to say, in the case of this show, they kind of made it impossible for me not to like it. It's almost the opposite of all of the other adaptations going on right now, where it's like, Alan, you're gonna like this show. Like, they backed me into a corner, like a bunch of bullies have just pinned me up against the wall. Maybe not pinned me up against the wall, but they've like backed me into a corner and gone, you're gonna like this show, Alan. Don't worry about it. You're really gonna like this show. And I do, dude. I really do. And I think the way that they do that, and the reason I think it's the complete opposite to all these other shows, is because the way that it's created to be very faithful. The whole point of the show is to be as faithful as possible to the game. Is how I feel anyway. That's the sense that you get. It really is the story of The Last of Us, and of course, I think that's good because I think that the showrunners, and I know Neil Druckmann's involved. I think that it shows that they understand that the source material is good and that we like the source material, and that honestly, despite the fact that we've seen it before, we just kind of want a way to experience it again and experience it in more detail. One thing I hadn't thought about, and I think it was on Angry Joe, one of them said, it not being cutscenes and it being something that you're not sitting there waiting for the gameplay, during, you get a lot more time for things like context, and you get to open things up a little bit more and spend more time with things. For example, Joel's daughter at the start, I thought she was given way more time and a lot more character. So when spoilers, all right, there's going to be spoilers in this video, but you should know the story of The Last of Us by now, and if you don't, please play the game. But when the thing happens to his daughter, it's a lot more tangible, and you really feel it. And particularly as a new dad, my daughter's about to turn 1. It really hurt. The first time I experienced it in the game, it was painful. In the second time, it really did, it hit me hard. I'm not someone who cries. I didn't cry, but I got a little emotional. Being a dad, it does make it different. But I also think, like I said, though, you were given more time to connect with this character. It's really, really well done. And yeah, you just feel a lot of the emotions that you felt during the game, but just more. And the characters given more time to breathe and to grow. It's a slow show so far. It is quite slow, and I think, pacing wise, though, it does fit the game. I mean, the game was slow. Again, it's just being faithful. I mean, really, if you're going into this expecting a different story, then you're not going to get that. You are, if you haven't experienced the story, then absolutely, I would definitely recommend the show. You need to see the show because it's a fantastic story, a really, really phenomenal story, and you need to experience it. And if you love the game, then yes, I'd recommend the show too, because you're going to enjoy getting back into that universe. But if you've experienced the story 1,000 times and are tired of it, then honestly, maybe, I don't know, maybe it isn't for you. But I mean, otherwise, it's still a great show. It has great production. Pedro Pascal, that's pissing me off right there. Pedro Pascal, I wasn't sure. I thought he would be good, but he really fucking nailed it, dude. He is very believable as Joel, incredibly believable as Joel. And I instantly connected with that character. I felt his hardship, and I know exactly what he's going through. And I think the show communicates what he's going through at the moment quite well. And I think his arc is going to be really good. A lot of complex emotions and sort of dealing with the grief of everything he's experienced and digging up that past over and over again. And of course, the police state situation that he's in, alongside the infection, the police state situation making it worse than it currently is. There's going to be a lot of great character development with that character. But the leader of the Fireflies, I was into too. We didn't really see much of Ellie, but I think she's going to be good. I think there's a lot of room for her to grow in this show. My hair's really pissing me off. There's a lot of room for her to grow in this show and grow with Joel, and I think they're pacing that really well at the moment. Obviously a lot of people are comparing this to other video game adaptations. I think a lot of people are sort of... Some of the adaptations that we're seeing right now are quite bad. That is true, but I think people are exaggerating it a little bit and getting a little bit too presumptuous with a lot of these things. I don't think there's been as many adaptations as people seem to be making out on the internet right now. I mean, we had the Halo show last year now, and honestly, the Halo show, yes, was a bit of a disappointment if you wanted the story of Halo, which is great. Personally, I think, if it was me, if I was allowed to create my own Halo show, I would have done what they did with The Last of Us, but actually started with Halo 2. But that's just me. And I think a lot of people are getting a little bit annoyed with adaptations, and so now that this one's come along and it is faithful, they're very, very happy with it. And I think this is a message to the people making these adaptations that people are going to be really happy with your show, and they're going to rave about it, talk about it, and review it highly if it's faithful to the source material. Now, do I think that's a good thing? I guess it depends on the situation. I mean, The Last of Us is a fantastic story. I've said that 1,000 times in this video, but it really is a great story. So in this case, yes, I do want to see this story told again. I think that's a lot better than telling other stories here and there. But, maybe with another show, it might be different. But I definitely think that a lot of the hype and a lot of the excitement and enjoyment that people are getting from the show is just because it is so faithful. And they're excited about the fact that there's finally a video game adaptation that feels like a video game adaptation of one of their favorite games. And yes, I think that's good. And yes, I'm excited too. And yes, I'm happy that they did that with this show. That really is what's going on here. So I'm very excited for the rest of the show. I'm not sure whether I'll be reviewing the rest of the episodes, but I will definitely try to review the last episodes so that we can do a little encapsulated thing. But right now, I'm very excited about it, and I think it's a very good adaptation, and it feels very true to the source material, and I'm very happy with that. So let me know what you think if you want to, and you can comment. They let you do that now, and in fact they've been letting you do that for 17 years.